What do you do when your private spot in the woods isn't private anymore? A bow hunter sits in his blind, hoping for 2 hours of quiet in the forest. The woods are silent. There's no one else around, only him and the trees. Then something moves. A few feet away, a man steps out with a gun in his hand. He stares directly into the camera and says, "Stop recording." 2 hours of calm vanish in an instant, replaced by hours of fear and terror. The hunter's voice trembles as he pleads. He isn't certain he'll walk out alive. But that's not the end of it. Just one among 6 really disturbing forest encounters caught on camera. There's a certain type of YouTuber who keeps proving the same thing over and over again. Camping alone in the wild looks peaceful on camera, but the moment the sun drops and the forest starts making its own sounds, that whole solo adventure idea starts to feel a lot less romantic and a lot more questionable. Earlier that day, she had arrived in the northern part of Sweden with one goal in mind: find a cave she had only heard whispers about. She had nothing to go on except a rumor that somewhere deep in that endless wilderness, there was a hollow in the rock big enough to sleep in for the night.
Hello all my beautiful people, I hope you're doing well. Another day, another opportunity here in northern part of Sweden. We're gonna head for a cave I heard about. I don't even know if it's existing, like really exists, so we're gonna go and have a look and see if we can stay there tonight. So let the adventure continue.
And for her, that was enough. She had always wanted this moment, just once, to sleep inside a cave. She wanted something that felt real in a way comfort never does. Rough, exposed, a little unpredictable. But now reality was starting to creep in. The deeper she walked into the forest, the more the wilderness seemed to push back. Mosquitoes swarmed relentlessly. Not just a few here and there, but constant, aggressive clouds of them that made even standing still feel like a mistake.
Alright, I'm almost starting to regret this choice because there are so many mosquitoes here. See, they're crazy. This is nothing compared to what June and July will show us. Go away. Oh.
Every pause became a battle. Every breath felt shared with something buzzing in her ear. And then there was the sky. Still, she kept going. Would I have kept going? I wouldn't know. I guess in life we just pick out what we've decided is our task and set ourselves to it, come what may. And there's always a strange point in every journey like this, where turning back almost feels harder than continuing forward, especially when you've told yourself that this is the night you sleep in a cave. But the mosquitoes don't care about storytelling arcs. They just keep coming. And, of course, there are always wild animals. She even found a snake, but she continues. She steps closer, almost disbelieving it's actually real. After all that uncertainty, it's just there. A natural hollow carved into stone, waiting. Inside, it's dry, quiet, protected from the wind. Not perfect, but enough.
I have no idea if we're gonna find this cave, honestly. Right now it seems not to exist. Oh no, it's coming so much rain. I don't know if you can see that. I guess in the mountain afar there, it's so much rain. Whoops. Yeah, and it's coming rain now as well. Okay. I'm glad there are some shelters as well, so I can hide in there in case this cave doesn't exist. No way, look at this. A cave. Yay! Look at this. We have a little cave here. Oh, it's brilliant to sleep in. Look. Yeah. Wow. This is perfect for sleeping, no way.
And suddenly, the whole tone shifts. This isn't just survival anymore. This is a possibility. In her voice, there's a flicker of excitement again, the kind that only shows up when fear and relief collide in the same breath. But it doesn't last long, because as she looks deeper into the cave, reality starts whispering again.
Yeah, I hope these rocks won't fall on me tonight, though. What I learned is that you shouldn't make a fire in the cave, right? Because it can happen that the rocks get warm and that they fall from the cliff and fall on you and you die, basically. So not gonna do that. We're gonna go to a place where I can make my food and then crawl in here. I think I'm gonna sleep here somehow. Like that, like that. Sounds coming from the forest. The thing is, I'm not afraid of the animals here. That is my fear when I'm in these public places. Humans. That's the biggest fear when you're camping. You never know the intention of people, you know?
The uncomfortable awareness that this entire shelter is held together by things she can't control. A memory flashes into her mind. Stories of trapped explorers, collapsed stone, situations that started exactly like this, just a quiet place to sleep. She isn't afraid of the animals, not really. What she doesn't trust is people. In places like this, you never really know what someone is thinking when they step out of the trees. As the light drains and the forest gets quieter in that uneasy way, the feeling doesn't leave. The cave had gone still when she first heard it, a faint sound slipping in from outside.
Survival instinct is kicking in with all the sounds coming right now. I think I can hear some voices. Some people are coming. No. Oh well. What can I do? Well, let's go to bed now. It is around 8 o'clock. I'm gonna continue watching Vikings season 2 right now. So let's do that.
Wind at first, then something that sounded like voices. It went quiet again, and she tried to ignore it, scrolling on her phone while watching Vikings season 2 to calm herself down. Then she felt a sharp pressure under her. A rock had torn through her sleeping setup. She sat up, frustrated. Before she could settle again, the voices came back, closer this time.
Now the voices are back again. There are some people coming. Oh, it's 1 a.m. I'm so tired. I need to go and face them. See who it is. Otherwise I can't sleep.
It wasn't what she expected. Just a group of teenagers in the forest, talking like it was nothing. After that, she didn't sleep. She packed up in silence, still tired, still tense. Before leaving, she made coffee in the kettle and drank it from the lid since she'd lost her cup. It was warm, bitter, enough to move her on. She walked back through the forest to her motorcycle, the only thing that still felt real. You know, there are some things that can ruin a hunt before it even begins. Bad weather, a missed shot. Maybe a deer catches your scent and disappears into the woods before you ever get a chance. But sometimes, the biggest problem isn't nature, it's people. This story starts on the opening weekend of air rifle season. The creator had headed out to hunt with his friend Chris and Chris's father. Nothing unusual, just a cold morning in the blind, watching a food plot and waiting to see what might step out. For hours, things were quiet. Then, sometime around 10 o'clock, a couple of deer appeared.
There was actually a spike buck there, and right to the right of that spike buck was a big doe. On this property, we don't shoot spikes and little 4-pointers and things like that. So he was going to shoot the mature doe that was actually off to the right, just slightly over in front of a pine tree, and the deer was actually stepping, into the opening where he could get a clear shot. Well, all of a sudden, the spike looked up toward the front of the property, and he just locked up. So we assumed that there was another deer coming. So we didn't move. We just waited to see what was going on.
One was a spike buck, The other was a mature doe standing nearby. Since they didn't shoot young bucks on that property, Chris's father focused his attention on the doe. The setup looked perfect. The deer was beginning to move into an opening where a clean shot would be possible. And then, something changed. The spike suddenly froze. Its head snapped up toward the front of the property. If you've spent any time around deer, you know that feeling. They hear something before you do, see something before you do. And when they lock onto a spot, you start paying attention too. Everyone in the blind went still. Maybe another deer was coming, maybe a bigger buck. Instead, what appeared out of the woods left them completely stunned. A man, just casually walking across private property. Imagine sitting for hours, doing everything right, waiting for wildlife to appear, only to watch another person stroll through your hunting area like they're taking an afternoon walk through a public park. The hunter couldn't believe it. Honestly, I wouldn't believe it either. It's just crazy how quickly the trespasser could have gotten into the crosshairs. He practically launched himself out of the blind. And honestly, you can understand why. For people who don't own land, it might seem like a small thing, but property owners often compare it to someone wandering through your backyard without permission. It's not just frustrating, it feels disrespectful. The camera started rolling as he approached the stranger. What followed was an awkward exchange that only made the situation more bizarre.
No, this is private property.
Oh, got down in how far?
It goes another 300 yards. It's all my property.
300 yards.
I'm just letting you know right now you're being recorded.
Okay.
It's private property. I've had a lot of trespassers on here stealing stuff, and I'm sick of it.
The hunter immediately informed the man that he was standing on private property and that he was being recorded. The stranger didn't seem particularly concerned. When asked where he had entered from, his answers became increasingly confusing. At one point, he admitted the land wasn't his, yet somehow he still seemed to think being there wasn't a problem. The property owner wasn't buying it. According to him, the entire perimeter was clearly posted with warning signs. Not one sign, not two, the whole boundary, which raised an obvious question. If the signs were everywhere, how exactly do you accidentally wander onto someone else's hunting property? The conversation stayed surprisingly calm, but the frustration was obvious. The hunter explained that family members were actively hunting nearby. People were sitting in blinds, others were spread across the property. This wasn't abandoned land, this wasn't public land, and this certainly wasn't the day to be wandering around where armed hunters were waiting for deer. Eventually, the man agreed to leave and was told to exit the same way he had entered. As he walked away, the hunter couldn't hide his disbelief. The encounter lasted only a few minutes, but it had already ruined the hunt. The deer were gone, and now there was a completely different problem to deal with. Later, the footage was reportedly forwarded to local wildlife authorities. The hunter even contacted an officer he had worked with before because, according to him, this wasn't the first trespassing issue in the area. What makes the whole story so frustrating is that it isn't unique. Talk to enough hunters, farmers, ranchers, or landowners, and you'll hear similar stories. Someone ignores the signs. Someone crosses a fence. Someone assumes the rules apply to everyone else. And every single time, it leaves the people who actually own the land wondering the same thing. What part of private property is so hard to understand? If you are still watching at this point, pause for a second and think about what you have just seen. These are not just stories. These are real moments happening in real places, often in seconds where everything changes. And if content like this pulls you in the way it does for so many people, then do not just scroll past. Subscribe to the channel, because we are only halfway through, and what comes next is even more intense, unexpected, and sometimes hard to believe. You know, most hunters expect to deal with bad weather, mosquitoes, maybe even a deer catching their scent and disappearing before they can get a shot. What they don't expect is another person suddenly showing up in the middle of their hunt. That's exactly what happened here. The hunter had been sitting quietly in his blind when he noticed someone moving nearby.
Coming out there right now. All right. But I just want to show you kind of why we're here. We pay good money to hunt this property. We've been hunting it for years.
At first, he couldn't quite believe what he was seeing. This wasn't public land. This wasn't a hiking trail. This was private hunting property that he and several others had paid good money to lease. So he grabbed his camera and headed over. Now, if you've never hunted before, you might think, what's the big deal? But imagine looking out your kitchen window and seeing a stranger wandering around your backyard. Most people wouldn't be comfortable with that. Hunting property owners tend to feel exactly the same way. As he approached the man, the situation immediately felt tense. The stranger seemed nervous, very nervous.
Coming out there right now. But I just want to show you kind of why we're here. We pay good money to hunt this property. We've been hunting it for years.
No, you ain't been moving for years. I've been here 8 years.
Do you live on this property right here?
Sir, you're not listening to me. I'm not listening
I just want to talk to you. I'm sorry.
Put your phone down.
You have an AR in front of me. I'm f***ing scared.
Put your phone down.
Dude, I'm scared as right now.
Okay, well, it's going to be more scary. Put your phone down. Are you attacking me?
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. I'm hunting. I'm hunting with...
Drop your phone.
Oh, my God.
Drop your fucking phone.
He pointed out that there was a rifle visible and admitted he was scared. Honestly, you can hear the anxiety in his voice. And to be fair, it's probably not every day that someone finds themselves standing face to face with an armed hunter deep inside the woods. But from the hunter's perspective, there was another concern entirely. Who was this guy? Why was he here? And how had he ended up in this exact location? The hunter repeatedly explained that the land was private and that people had paid to hunt there. He wasn't looking for a fight. If anything, he seemed more frustrated than angry. The stranger, meanwhile, kept trying to explain himself. He wanted to talk. He wanted to understand the property boundaries. He wanted to know who actually owned the land. The problem was that none of those questions changed the immediate issue. He was standing in a place where he wasn't supposed to be. What makes the encounter interesting is that neither side seemed to view the situation the same way. In the end, it turned into one of those awkward encounters where neither side really knew what else to do except bring it to a close. Before leaving, the stranger even wished the hunters good luck, which only made the moment feel stranger than what came before it. Situations like this are not always about clear danger or clear villains. Sometimes, they are just uncomfortable collisions between two people who are both convinced they are in the right, and neither one fully backing down. Imagine you're out hunting on your own property. It's quiet. Just the sound of moving water, birds somewhere in the trees, and the kind of solitude most hunters actually enjoy. You're carrying a weapon, of course. That's normal. You're hunting. Then you glance toward a creek running through your land, and somebody is standing in it, naked.
Talking about Christian here, you know this is a hunter, and I'm a little confused. This is my land. I'm here with weapons, and somebody standing in my creek naked. I mean, I'm not gonna shoot you, but you're...
At first, you probably assume you're seeing things. That's exactly what happened to one hunter named Christian. What started as a normal day outdoors suddenly turned into one of the strangest encounters of his life. When Christian approached the creek, he found a young man standing in the water with almost nothing on. No backpack, no obvious supplies, no explanation that made immediate sense. And from the first few seconds of the conversation, something felt very wrong. Christian tried to understand what he was looking at. Who was this guy? Was he alone? Was somebody else nearby? Those questions mattered. When you're standing in the middle of a remote property and discover a stranger unexpectedly, you don't know whether you're dealing with a harmless situation or the beginning of a serious problem. The young man appeared confused.
You've been on this creek for 4 days.
This wasn't somebody trying to sneak across private property. The guy looked completely lost, physically and mentally. Christian later learned something even more shocking. The man had apparently been wandering around the creek for several days. 4 days. 4 days with little understanding of where he was or how he had gotten there. Try putting yourself in Christian's shoes. Christian is not nervous or aggressive as the conversation begins, only confused by what he is hearing. He starts by asking where the man's clothes are, expecting a straightforward answer. Instead, the response offers nothing solid. The man cannot explain where his clothes are, and when asked about his belongings, the same uncertainty follows. Even simple facts seem to disappear as soon as they are mentioned. As the discussion continues, Christian tries to build some kind of narrative from scattered details that do not quite align. The stranger mentions a music festival, something like Tomorrow World, though he sounds unsure even as he says it, as if the memory itself is unstable. Each reply feels incomplete, cutting off before it fully develops. Rather than bringing clarity, every answer deepens the confusion and leaves more gaps behind. When Christian asks where he lives, the man insists he knows, yet almost immediately after, he admits he cannot say where he is right now. That contradiction changes the tone of the entire interaction. There is a sense that he can remember having a home, but cannot connect that memory to any direction or location, as though the information is broken apart. Christian keeps going, asking what county he is in. There is no response that helps. When he asks for an address, the result is the same. As more details come out, the frustration fades and concern slowly takes over. His questions become softer and more careful. It shifts from, "Why are you here?" to, "Are you okay?" That is probably when it fully hits him. This is not an intruder or a threat. It is someone who seems completely lost, disconnected from reality, and far from where he should be, clearly in need of help. By the end, Christian is just standing there, trying to process everything he has heard. After hearing the full story, it is hard not to feel the same way. At first, it looked like the perfect travel moment. A hidden waterfall tucked away in Samoa, crystal clear water, tropical greenery hanging over the rocks, hardly another person around. The kind of place that makes you feel like you've stumbled onto a secret nobody else knows about. The traveler had paid her entry fee, parked nearby, and walked down to the pool with obvious excitement. Standing at the edge, she couldn't believe she had the entire place almost to herself. The water looked unreal. She slipped in, swam toward the falls, and spent a few minutes taking in the scenery. Everything felt peaceful, relaxing, exactly what you'd hope for from a quiet day exploring a beautiful corner of the world. Then she noticed someone watching. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal, just a local man nearby.
I'm gonna hop in now. I took a couple photos and now I'm ready to have a dip. Are you okay? All good?
He asked a few questions, made small talk, offered suggestions about where to swim and which rocks to climb. Nothing immediately alarming. Still, something felt off. Have you ever had that feeling? Nothing specific has happened yet, but your instincts start whispering that something isn't quite right. You can't explain it, and because you can't explain it, you almost feel guilty for thinking it. That seemed to be exactly where her mind was. Several times during the visit, she admitted feeling uncomfortable.
Okay. Oh my gosh, the water's so nice and crisp. Whoops. It'd be good to have rock shoes or something. I feel like that man was like waiting for me to hop in so he could hop in or something. I don't know why.
The man kept appearing wherever she went. When she moved, he followed. When she stopped, he stayed close. Yet every time she questioned his intentions, she found herself second-guessing those concerns. Maybe he's just being friendly. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe he's only trying to help. It's a conversation many travelers know all too well. The constant tug of war between trusting your instincts and worrying that you're being unfair to someone. As time went on, the interactions became harder to ignore. The man offered to take photos for her. He guided her toward different spots near the waterfall.
I don't know, I can't tell if the man is just being really nice or if he's just being too friendly, like, because I was feeling a little bit uncomfortable. But he was like, do you need some help coming over here? And I was like, no, thank you. Because I just want to be like by myself with no men around, preferably. Okay, oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! You scared me!
He encouraged her to explore areas she hadn't planned on visiting. Sometimes he seemed genuinely helpful. Other times, his attention felt more personal than she was comfortable with. And that's what made the situation so confusing. Not every uncomfortable encounter comes wrapped in obvious danger. Sometimes it's uncertainty itself that leaves the strongest impression. You spend the entire experience wondering whether you're misreading things, only to look back later and realize your instincts were trying to tell you something. Was she just being paranoid? Or was there real danger here? I would have been quite scared because they were like the only two around. By the end of the visit, she was eager to leave. The conversation continued near the parking area. The man invited her to visit his home if she returned someday. She thanked him for taking photos and prepared to head out. But once she was alone with her thoughts, the doubts she'd been pushing aside came rushing back. Reviewing the footage later, she admitted there were moments that made her deeply uncomfortable. She felt she had ignored her instincts. She felt she had been too worried about hurting someone else's feelings and not concerned enough about protecting her own boundaries. That realization stayed with her. What struck many viewers wasn't the waterfall itself or even the man. It was how honest she was afterward. She didn't present herself as fearless. She didn't pretend she handled everything perfectly. Instead, she openly talked about something many people experience but rarely admit: the pressure to stay polite even when you're uncomfortable. Looking back, she said she wished she had trusted herself sooner. And maybe that's the real takeaway from the story. Not every warning sign comes with flashing lights. Sometimes it's just a quiet feeling in the back of your mind, a sense that something isn't right, a voice telling you to step away, create distance, or leave. Ignoring that voice can be easy. Learning to listen to it can be much harder. You know those horror movies where a group of friends wanders into the wrong place at the wrong time, and everything goes downhill from there? Well, for one YouTuber, that nightmare became reality. A few years ago, he and 3 friends decided to explore an abandoned campground hidden deep inside a forest. It wasn't their first visit. In fact, he had been there before, and nothing unusual had happened. The place was creepy, sure, but that's exactly why urban explorers loved it. This time felt different from the moment they arrived.
Hier is de ingang, de poort.
Ja, dat staat echt duidelijk privaat op.
En daar staat op, pas op, waakhond.
As they drove deeper into the woods, they noticed strange signs warning visitors to stay away. There were messages about guard dogs, private property, and makeshift structures that looked as if someone had built them by hand. It felt less like an abandoned campground and more like someone had claimed the forest as their own. Still, they kept going. At first, everything seemed quiet. The group followed an old path between abandoned cabins and overgrown trails. Then, they heard something.
Hallo?
Ja,
Mogen wij hier wandelen?
hoort je het? Die deur, die wint niet. Ik hoor ze...
Nee, dat was een beest.
What the f***? What the fuck? Oh.
A scream. A human scream. The YouTuber later said it sounded as though somebody was being tortured somewhere in the darkness. Nobody said a word. Then someone spotted it. A light moving through the trees in the distance. At first it was little more than a faint glow, easy to dismiss. But as the seconds passed, it kept coming their way, slowly, steadily. The group immediately switched off their lights and stood motionless in the darkness, hoping they had gone unnoticed. For a moment, it seemed like it might work, but the light didn't change direction. If anything, it seemed to be heading straight toward them. With every passing second, it grew brighter, and the uneasy feeling that had been hanging over the group suddenly became a lot harder to ignore. As the light drew nearer, they could finally make out a person emerging from the darkness. Then they saw her. A woman standing among the trees, dressed completely in white. What caught their attention even more, though, was what she appeared to be holding. According to the YouTuber, it looked like an axe. Whatever curiosity they had about the cave vanished on the spot. The mood shifted in an instant. This was no longer an eerie adventure video. It suddenly felt like a situation they needed to get out of. They turned and bolted, crashing through the forest as fast as they could. Branches snapped beneath their feet as they crashed through the forest. The YouTuber fell hard, hitting the ground and rolling across the dirt before scrambling back up. Behind them, they could still hear the woman yelling. At some point during the chaos, the group got separated. The YouTuber found himself alone, crouched behind a tree in the darkness, afraid to make even the slightest sound. He stayed there for nearly 20 minutes, listening. What he heard was chilling. The woman was still somewhere in the forest, yelling. According to him, she kept shouting that she would kill them if they ever returned. Just imagine being stuck there, hidden among the trees, with no idea where she was, and those threats carrying through the night air. Eventually, he called the police. When officers arrived and searched the area, they found that someone had tampered with his vehicle. His license plate had been removed and hidden nearby. But the part he remembers most came later. The woman was sitting on the ground surrounded by police officers. Gone were the shouting and the threats. Instead, she simply sat there, smiling. Years later, he still says that's the image he can't shake. Not the chase through the forest, not the threats, not even the axe she was supposedly carrying. Just that smile. You made it to the end, and if you enjoyed watching, that says a lot. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next disturbing cases we uncover. And if you can't wait for the next one, tap any video on your screen right now. Go on, pick your next story. See you there.